So welcome to my RWBY Volume 3 review. Now before you leave, please hear me out on this review, and then decide if you want to dislike this video or not. But also, if I start seeing, before I see comments saying, what about Shane's letter? Why didn't you talk about Shane's letter in your review? Did you read it? Oh, did you know about Shane's letter? I did read Shane's open letter, and I was considering throwing it into this review as well, but I didn't want to make this video any longer than it has to be, so I'm going to make another video to go along with this video. I'll put the link in the description below, and you can see my opinions on it, because ultimately, after I read it, it didn't really change my opinion on Volume 3 that much. There might have been like one part in that letter that kind of made me, that affected my opinion of Volume 3, but it didn't change it completely. It didn't make me think any less of the season than I think right now. I mean, I think it's so. There you go. RWBY Volume 3. My general impression, my general opinion on it is that I think it's better than the first few seasons. It does a lot of things. It improved a lot of the criticisms that I had. The animation has gotten better. The story is a little bit more focused. It doesn't kind of derail itself, or it doesn't kind of wander around. They give us some payoffs to questions that we've had since Volume 1. They take risks by the end of the season, which I really liked. I liked some of these risks that this show has taken in this season. So let's get into it. First off, the animation. The animation has improved a lot over the past two seasons, where the fight scenes actually feel like that they have some weight to them. The past two seasons kind of feel that these characters are kind of floaty, and it just kind of feels like you kind of feel like they're filled with air. Here, there's at least some weight with the fight, and the intensity is mixed very well with the music that goes along with it. So the animation is great. There's some design stuff that I'll get into later on to this review that kind of affects how I view the story and the characters. So with that said, let's get on to the story. Right off the bat, I was so ready to hate the season because I don't like tournament arcs. I don't like it in Dragon Ball Z, I didn't like it in Pokemon, I didn't like it in any other show that had it. But this show, Like Kill La Kill, handles it so well. It handles it to the point where I was actually hooked into watching this play out, because I didn't know it plays your expectations so well that I think it does a good job not making it stale or boring or predictable. It's the perfect amount of what you'd expect. So I really liked how the tournaments played out. So yeah, the tournament arc is great. There are some hiccups within the tournament arc that happened within the tournament arc that I thought were kind of weird, but let's get on with the other stuff within the story. So they talk about the maidens. They introduced these four maidens that gain their powers, that obtain their powers from this old wizard, because they exhibited such a generosity to this old man that this old man decided to reward them with the power of the seasons. And these four maidens eventually became kind of almost the protectors of this world. They had winter, summer, fall, spring, there to protect them. Now, I thought that was interesting. I thought that was a very interesting plot point. I kind of feel like it should have been brought up earlier, but it was still interesting to know about these maidens. And it actually at least gave us some indication as to what the villains are after. Why are they and why they're in Beacon sneaking around? What they were trying to accomplish to begin with. It doesn't give us an end game for the villains, but it gives us enough to actually feel that there's something to lose, something at stake, than just, so why you should be intimidated or feel some sort of tension with the villains, because they're looking for these maidens. The only thing that came out of these maidens that kind of gave me mixed feelings was that they chose to kind of put this development onto Pyrha. Pyrha was a support side character in the first two seasons, and then all of a sudden they give her this major plot point and major development out of nowhere. I mean, that's not to say that they didn't develop Pyrha at all as a character, but you you don't see characters that are side characters like Pyrha, for example, to get these kind of development. You would kind of expect someone in Team RWBY to get this kind of development, because even when you look at Team RWBY, they kind of match the seasons. You have Weiss, that's basically the same design as Winter. She has winter colors. Yang is basically has summer warm colors. RWBY and Blake are the only ones that kind of could switch between spring and fall. But even then, depending on where you place them, they match the colors very well with whatever season they're stuck with. But Pyrha was just kind of a weird choice to begin with, and it just kind of fell out of nowhere. And the thing that I just had to kind of criticize the decision to throw Pyrha in the mix is that they had this whole development with Pyrha and John that it created this kind of, it went down this kind of hokey, kind of cheesy plot point with them, where Osmond tells Pyrha, well, once you obtain the maiden's powers, we don't know if you're gonna still be Pyrha, or you might lose your memories, you might be a different person completely. We don't know. This is the first time doing this. Okay. And then it's just like, she's talking to John, asking for advice. But then, obviously John's gonna say, oh yeah, you should follow your destiny, you should do this, do that, without knowing what the context is. And then she gets angry at him. I hate when stories do that, because it's so frustrating, because you're just like, why don't you tell him? I mean, yeah, I get it that, oh, well, it's a secret, not a lot of people should know this, but John and Pyrha have this very close relationship. I mean, it's just, I feel like they should have done something different with that. They should have just been like, okay, how about instead of Pyrha keeping a secret from John, she tells John, and then they could both share the secret together and then have some common ground, instead of just like, no, Pyrha can't tell him. And it's just like, it's the same fucking plot we've seen in dozens of shows before this. And it's frustrating that RWBY, it breaks some expectations with the tournament stuff, but then you have stuff like this that kind of goes back into this territory of fan fiction-y nonsense, where it's just like, we've seen this before. Why don't you just play with our expectations with this? Why not do something different that no one would expect? Because it's so boring to see the same kind of plot point. But luckily it doesn't play out for the entire season. At least it kind of doesn't outstay its welcome. At least it doesn't do that. So that's the only good thing about it. But other than that, it was just the worst thing that came out of that. And then they go into a flashback sequence with Cinder and how she met Emerald, I think her name is Emerald, and Mercury. And the issue with this flashback is that you don't have a gauge of time. You don't know how far back it's going. For all you know, it could be like, a year before they go to Beacon, 10 years before they go to Beacon. You don't know when, because not a lot of characters have different character models. Like when you look at Crow, for example, he's wearing the same clothing he does in Present Time Volume 3. Same with Blake. When you saw Blake in the White Fang, you would expect that she wouldn't be hiding her cat ears, because there's no one to hide that from. I at least assumed she was wearing the bow. It was kind of hard to say because it's a black bow, her ears are black, so it kind of mixes. But I assumed she was still wearing the bow, but even if you take the bow out of consideration, the clothing's still the same. At least change her clothing. At least give some more indications that this is a flashback instead of a, this happened yesterday or something. The only thing we get is that, this is back when Blake was with the White Fang, but when did she leave the White Fang? We should at least, but that's why there should be at least different character models for these characters. And it kind of comes as an issue when Mercury spots Crow in Beacon. Because then Mercury tells Cinder, like, oh yeah, Crow's here. He saw us fight the maiden. He could finger us easily. And then she's like, nah, don't worry about it. We'll just continue trying to find the maiden. It's fine. And it's just like, he still, yeah, you could say that, here's that span between those two encounters. But the thing is that they didn't look that much different. So Crow could just look at them and maybe not say that, these people are definitely the bad guys, but he could at least suspect them, or at least be like, I'm going to keep an eye on them. or tell the husband, hey, I think these guys might be the people that try to get the maiden. We should keep a close eye on them because they look so close, like that. It's just they Cinder doesn't consider that as a possibility. Like Cinder's like, no, we're just gonna keep doing what we're doing. I mean, they're already kind of tipped off that someone wants to get to the maiden. I mean, you don't think that maybe looking like you did when it's just weird. It's just weird and kind of a lot to ask for the viewer to assume that Crow wouldn't recognize them. That's a little too much to believe that Crow wouldn't. I mean, it's just, yeah, he drinks, but like, come on now. This is ridiculous. So stuff like that it just kind of affects the narrative in that, or at least character logic in some way. And then character logic gets hurt even more when you consider that, so during the tournament when Yang was fighting Mercury, so Yang wins the fight, she's walking off stage, and she thinks that Mercury's gonna attack her from behind, so she breaks his leg. But in reality, she broke Mercury's leg when he was just on the ground sitting. It was like Emerald messing with her perception or something, which is like, okay, that's fine, I guess. But here's the issue with this. She was so dead on, claiming she was innocent. The Ironwood did not care to at least not even investigate. I mean, yeah, you could tell me, well, it had a huge amount of witnesses saying that doesn't connect with her story. But the thing is that Yang doesn't have a history of doing things like this. She has been in the tournament for like a few matches, and she has not made any decisions that were kind of like out of character for her. I mean, if I saw that, and then she says that she's dead on saying that she would never do this, and she was innocent and all this stuff, I would have at least the idea that maybe she was innocent, because she wouldn't do this. I mean, yeah, she's a hothead half the time, and she does get irrational, but to do that is just kind of too far, and it's just weird that there would be no investigation for it. Because then Ruby talks to Velvet, and then Velvet brings up more evidence that fuels the theory that Yang might be innocent, or might be telling the truth in some way. Because she tells the same similar story that her teammates thought that, oh, well, I thought this was the case, but really, their person was over here. That was weird. And it's like, that's enough to at least suspect something was going on within the fight, because both fights had Mercury and Emerald, in the first fight, and then this fight had Mercury. They didn't think that maybe there was some underhanded tactics going on. I mean, but no, there was no grounds for investigation? Okay, I mean, I'm not saying that Yang had to stay fighting in the tournament or anything, but like, she should have been like suspended, but they should have at least been an open appeal process for her. I mean, Yang should have the right to appeal it, or to at least want an investigation or something. And then, but let's talk about Yang's character for a moment, because there is one part of the development that I'm kind of glossing over, and this kind of ties back into Shane's letter, because Shane's letter brings up Raven, Yang's mom, that was supposed to play a bigger role in Volume 3, and Rooster Teeth turned it down and said, no, we're not going to do that, which was a dumb decision, because Volume 2 ends with Yang talking to Raven, and Raven's saying, oh, we have a lot to talk about, and then in Season 3, she's nowhere to be seen, which makes no sense. There was no point of bringing it up in the second season then. Like, I know Shane's letter brings up saying that how Rooster Teeth was even against having Raven in Volume 2, but if they weren't going to have Raven in Volume 3, then they might as well just deleted the scene in Volume 2 then. Otherwise, they should have stuck with having Raven in Volume 3 at that point. But even then, like, they bring up Raven through a picture that Yang sees, and they keep alluding to Yang wanting to search for her mom. That goes ultimately nowhere. I mean, by the end of the season, it kind of gives a dead end to that development for a reason. But before that, she didn't seem like she cared, I guess. I mean, she was so dead set on searching for her mom that there really wasn't any development towards it, or at least enough to be like, oh, she's gonna do it. It doesn't really go anywhere. So that's kind of what annoyed me about Yang's character in Volume 3, is that that a lot of her stuff doesn't go anywhere. So up to that point, Mercury leaves. They tell him to stay out of sight. Okay, they tell him to stay out of sight because they want to keep the story that he broke his leg and he's with family. The next episode, Ruby leaves the stadium to check something out, and then she sees Mercury. Now, come on. They tell Mercury, oh, we need to keep you out of sight. Okay, so just stay out of sight. And then Mercury's there like, oh, Ruby, you saw me. Well, kind of. It's like, you couldn't get anyone else to fight to do what Mercury was doing? Because, like, at that point, what was the point of keeping it a secret then? If you're gonna have someone accidentally walk in, I mean, that should have been a thought. I mean, yeah, he's like, well, he didn't expect to see Ruby back there. But it's like, when you're a villain and you're supposed to be a smart villain, you should have at least expected these things to happen. But even that aside, it leads to a very interesting part where it's like Pyrha versus Penny, which was great. It was a very intense fight. However, it was just like, okay, when Pyrha killed Penny, I kind of didn't care, which is like kind of goes back to what I said in Kill la Kill, where it's like, I didn't feel like we got enough Penny to feel anything for her. We see her like 2-3 times in season 1 and 2, but then in season 3 she's just kind of here, and then she's there, and then you don't see her that much anymore. And then, oh, she dies, and it's like, is this supposed to be sad? I don't feel anything for this character when she died. Unfortunately, I felt more sadness to Ruby almost than to Penny. Which is like, okay, I don't know. It just didn't really affect me that much. As it should have, as the scene was trying to portray it. But after that, we get this insane climax where the Grimm breaks into Beacon. There's a big fight between the Hunters and the Grimm and all that. But the one thing that I will say about this whole scene when this was going on was Cinder's monologue. Her whole thing was cool. I liked her dialogue. Don't get me wrong. It was kind of cool monologuing. But the one part of her monologue that I just didn't understand why we would sympathize with was like, she said something like, "Oh, the Ironwood or like this company made Penny, and she was a girl that was a walking weapon. I don't think the Grimm could tell the difference." And she kind of made it sound as if we should feel sorry that the Grimm wouldn't know that Penny was a weapon. And it's like, why would we care? The Grimm killed people. Aren't we supposed to be against the Grimm? Like the beginning part of it, where it's like, oh yeah, well, see, this government is doing the secret stuff and this shady shit was fine. I was like, yeah, that is kind of fucked up that we have this shadow government kind of hinting at, like, oh yeah, see all these troops here, isn't that kind of dictatorial, and do you like dictatorships? This is wrong. Okay, see, I could sympathize with that. But when he talks about Grimm, it's like, why would we sympathize with the Grimm? Who cares if the Grimm can't tell if Penny is a human or a weapon? Who cares about that? I think what you said before, that was more of like threatening than that. But it still led to a very insane last few episodes where it kind of gave up this big intense fights where people were kind of dying left and right. That was like, oh wow, I can't believe characters are dying in RWBY. Torchwick dies, but his death is kind of anticlimactic. He gets fucking eaten. Like, that's kind of shitty. I mean, RWBY has a great line in that scene, and then instead of her killing him or wounding him or something, he gets eaten by a Grimm. Oh, okay, all right. I'm not making RWBY, so hey, what do I know, right? I mean, but then RWBY goes out of its way to be like, Theo, okay, we're gonna do the best thing ever. They kill off Pyrha. That's right, the best part of the season of the show, the thing that made this entire season the best season in my eyes, is that they actually took the risk. I was like so convinced that Pyrha wasn't gonna die. Pyrha dies. Yang loses her arm. Blake is like, oh shit, and then she runs off. And then Wace goes back with her dad. all this shit, all these consequences to what happened, all this development that hinted at the fourth volume being a different volume made me so happy. So that kind of goes into my closing thoughts in a way, in the sense that everything in RWBY Volume 3 was great in a way. It gave us payoffs. It gave us like a hint of what's to come. Like I love that they cut Ying's arm off. At least it gave us something to be like about, and we saw some development with Weiss's summoning, which was great. It was great. That was like the best thing, because like, you know, they alluded to her summoning in episode 3 or whatever with Winter, and then like we see her do some summoning in the last few episodes, and I was like, whoa, this is a payoff. We're doing payoffs now, finally, and it wasn't like some quick battle that was easily solved. It ended in a way where the bad guys won and the good guys lost, but the good guys kind of won at the end because RWBY did something that kind of froze everything that was just kind of cool and this and that. The only thing that kind of disappointed me about the ending, which was just a little thing, was that they made RWBY the chosen one. I kind of didn't like that, but there's so much good stuff in the end that doesn't even say, whatever. I mean, she might be the chosen one, she might be the second coming in this universe, but at least they killed off a character and they cut off a character's arm and did all this stuff that I'd never expected RWBY to do in years. I really liked that part of Season 3, and it really cemented that I think Season 3 is probably the best, because it actually had emotional scenes that made me feel things about the characters. So yes, if you ask me right now, do I think Season 3 is better than the first two seasons, I would tell you definitely, because it does a lot of things. It gave us hints, it gives us more of an idea what the villains were after. The other thing about the ending that I didn't like was that they introduced a new character that we never had a hint or a hint of. I mean, and if you tell me, well, Theo, she is the same voice as the person who narrated the beginning, so maybe it's just, you know, the same thing. I don't count that, because in the first season, that was just narration to set up the world. This woman, whoever her name is, that was talking at the end, sounded very mischievous and evil. I wish that we saw more of a hint of her in the season. Like, at least sprinkle her like name somewhere here, or just be like, oh yeah, well, you know, this or something. Give us some background before just showing a new character at the end and saying, okay, that's it. So yeah, there's a few things about the ending that it kind of goes back on the same tropes that RWBY has done every other season, but there was so much in the finale that I actually liked, that was actually very well paced and done, and it felt more complete of a season. So despite some of its flaws it had left and right and this kind of here and there, the overall package of it is better. It tells a better story, it feeds to the overarching plot better, and it's just overall a better season. So am I looking forward to Season 4? Yeah, I'll definitely check it out, because I liked how it ended, where where RWBY teamed up with like John, Nora, and what's his name? I can't remember his name now. The other guy, Nora's friend, I can't remember his name, I'm sorry. But I liked that ending, that part of the ending where it just shows that it won't take place in just one location anymore, and it'll be like a traveling show almost, it looks like. So that makes me interested in seeing what they're gonna go with this. So yeah, there you go. I do like Volume 3 a lot more than the other two seasons. I think overall it's a better season. So that's my general opinion on RWBY Volume 3. If I were to rate it, if I were to give it a number score, I would probably give it a 7 out of 10. So that's it for my review, and yeah, if you want to see my thoughts on Shane's Open Letter, just look at the description below, and you'll see my thoughts on that there. Thanks for watching this video, and see you in the next video, guys. Have a nice day.